Hello, here is everything I learned as a freelancer in the month of July 2023, more or less. First off, I learned how to do a YouTube channel. I published my first video at the end of June, which was also everything I learned as a freelancer that month. Then I've done a few brand breakdowns as well. I knew nothing about doing a YouTube channel. I knew about maintaining a YouTube channel because I'd done that in past jobs. In terms of commenting, like all social platforms, it keeps evolving, and I'd never actually uploaded my own videos. If you're considering a YouTube channel, this might be helpful. I wanted to start very low key. I purposely didn't buy any equipment. I'm filming on my phone. I'm using my Apple earbuds. I didn't know if I would like it. And so I thought, why invest in a bunch of equipment if I don't even know if I like it? So let's learn about what it's like to make it and if I enjoy it first. Turns out I do like it. So I think I'm going to buy a mic this month, so I don't have to have these earbuds in the video. I've been talking to some people who also create content for YouTube, and some people buy cameras. Honestly, the iPhone camera is not that bad for now. Maybe I'll change it up later. I also purposely wanted to go for not a super polished professional look. I don't love when videos are overly produced. I think that it's sort of like when you see ads on Instagram and you know that they are an ad. When I see an overly polished video, I kind of immediately think this person's trying to sell me something. There's probably a lot to unpack with that, but I wanted to go for a little more purposely low-key, informal, not super bright and shiny and polished. There's a few other great accounts that do this. For example, Paige Wassel and City Nerd, where they make really great, entertaining videos, but they don't have things like they're in a studio. I would say if you're curious about trying it, just get started and try it. Don't overthink it. We think that everything needs to be extremely professionalized, but I remember hearing on Tara McMullen's podcast once, she said, if you're making your first podcast episode, don't compare it to someone who's made 300 podcast episodes. And I think it's the same thing with these videos. Just get started, see if you like it. By jumping in, I feel like I learned about what formats that I like doing. So with the brand breakdowns, I'm purposely doing it in real time. I don't really like to do things overly scripted. Maybe that works well with some videos, but for me, I think that that would not feel very good. And I think it needs to feel good to create the content. Doing the brand breakdowns is also a fun little test for myself where I feel like I'm putting into practice my brand strategy work in real time and having to react to positioning, understand brand personality, do these sort of brand assessments, and kind of fun as a way to exercise that knowledge for myself. You definitely get more comfortable. The first video was very, very painful for me to film and to watch afterwards. I can already tell, this being the same subject as the first one I did, this is my 5th video now, I feel way more comfortable, and I'm sure that that just gets better with more time. You also get a lot more comfortable with hearing the sound of your voice. I released a podcast mini-series this month also, so in tandem with the podcast and with YouTube, I feel like I'm getting way more comfortable with hearing myself and seeing myself. Before, it was cringe city. When I say just get started, you guys should see my setup here. I put this little chair in my living room just so I could have a somewhat nice backdrop, but this room is not good with sound, so that's why I have to use these earbuds. This phone is propped I have to include a photo if I have one. This is a real lesson in humility. I have a stair railing here because I have stairs in front of me, and it's propped on top of the stair railing with these 2 flamingos that are plant huggers. You put them around your plant, they hug the plant. It's just a cute little decorative thing. But they have these bendy legs so they can hold my phone on top of the stairs. So when I say I don't have a setup and I just got started, that's what I mean. I need to get a tripod. I'll get a tripod and a mic this month probably. People keep recommending to me to create shorts to go along with my longer form videos. I've done a few of those, but it's a totally different practice. I feel like you have to make things so much more eye-catching right away. It does help because YouTube is pushing shorts a lot, so those videos do get more views, but it's not very fun for me to make those and put those up. So I think I'm gonna keep trying it out to see if it moves the needle at all or helps with views. But I purposely picked YouTube so that I could make longer form video, and the shorts are a little bit painful to have to make. But I've been trying to do it as quick as possible and just pick a quick clip from my videos. I've been using Descript to edit, which is really useful if you never used any editing software. Probably the last time I edited a video was an iMovie in like 7th grade for my drama class. I'm not familiar with editing software. Descript makes it really, really easy. I will say editing my 20-minute videos takes me a few hours per video. I'm sure I'll get better with that with time, but it is really time intensive. One of the most time intensive parts is adding in relevant screenshots from the brands that I'm talking about and the platforms that I'm looking at. I should probably time this, but it probably takes me about like 7 to 10 hours per video at the moment. I would like it to get it down to like 5 or less. That also includes creating the cover image and promoting it as well. With the cover image, I wanted to go for something really fun and light, so I made this sort of like scrapbooky feel. I didn't want it to be, again, like overly polished, salesy, looking like an ad. I guess if I were to think about what I would want it to look like, I'd want it to look more like a bulletin board feel per video. I'm sure more learnings with YouTube to come. Similarly, I published my podcast mini-series this month. I talked about creating the podcast in my last video, but this month I published it. We edited and published it. I am using the platform Spotify for podcasters, which used to be Anchor.fm, and it helps distribute it to other platforms once you create accounts on those. There is a bit of setup at the beginning. You have to create accounts and set up your podcast on all of these platforms. You also have to publish your first episode so that you can actually use the RSS feed to sign up on the other platforms, which threw a little bit of a wrench into my promotional plans, but it's all good. My boyfriend Carlos runs a production company, Mad Sounds Productions. They put out their own podcast. He also advised me to try to schedule the episodes at least 2 weeks out from when they're ready so that there's enough time to push it to all the platforms using Spotify for podcasters. There might be a better platform, but this one is free. It worked so far for the first episode. We'll see if it works for the second. I'm planning to publish every 2 weeks because I have 6 episodes, so I can then promote it over a 12-week period. This month, we also finalized the editing, and I learned that I really don't like recording the script for the outros and intros. It's a totally different process than doing the actual interviews. The interviews I found really engaging and fun, even though I batched all of them in a week, and that was tiring in some ways. It was like a very good tiring, like when you've done something and you feel really good about it. But writing the intros and recording them was really draining. Luckily, Carlos helped coach me on recording that, but you have to do it like over and over to get the right intonation. If you're not used to reading scripts or presenting, it's just like a totally different skill set because also like it's only your voice, so you have to get the intonation right. And I don't know if I got it quite right in the end, but it was much better by the end. I realized that that means I probably would not want to do a more scripted podcast. That would not be a very enjoyable experience for me. The part that I really liked about doing the podcast was the interviews with the other people and that interaction. Speaking of creating content, I attended a really great talk with Acunzo. I'm not sure if that's how you say his name, that was put on by Pollen, which is a membership network for independents. He talked about creating content and having a premise behind your content. He was specifically talking about podcasts because he's a podcaster, but it's really relevant to anything. And it's all about not creating very generic content. We've probably all seen interview podcasts or even Instagram accounts where you kind of just feel like they're repeating stuff you've seen elsewhere that's kind of generic. And he talks about the value of having a premise, which is that you're talking about a specific topic but through a certain lens or structure that makes it more unique. I'll include it here or here. Still learning that, but basically it's the XY premise is this is a project about X. Unlike other projects about X, only we Y. It's a simple way to make sure that your content is very unique to you. You don't necessarily need to have the biggest audience or be the biggest creator. It's more about being someone's favorite podcaster, being someone's favorite YouTuber. I really resonate with that because some of my favorite writers, podcasters, YouTubers, they may not have necessarily millions and millions of views, but I would watch any video they put out. They're the ones who, as soon as they put out an episode or as soon as they put out a newsletter, you're opening it. Another great thing to do before you create a course or content is to just double check that someone else isn't doing it first, the exact same thing. If so, it probably doesn't need to exist. Or if someone else is doing it, what's the twist on it that you can make based on your experience and your specific interests? At Pollen, we also had a great talk from Kevon Cheung, who, again, I hope I got his name right, but he talks all about build in public. I always found build in public really, really fascinating. I used to work at a startup where we tried to do build in public content. I am really interested in creating content like that as a freelancer. This video is kind of build in public content. It's also about creating content with you, with the people who follow you, with your community, which I would like to do more of. He talked specifically about Twitter or X or Threads or whatever you're on these days, where you have a small community that you interact with. It's not that you're trying to interact with everybody or that you're trying to go out and like find all these new audiences, but you have your core community, you interact with them, and then others will follow along. They'll lurk with those conversations or they'll then jump in. But it's more about interacting with your core community, which I found way more approachable and easy to wrap my head around than like, oh, I need to go out and like talk to all these new people on these platforms. So I think an easy way to start is with LinkedIn. You probably have certain people that you are always commenting with or talking with or sharing ideas with. So stick with that. Other people will follow along, other people will notice, and that's how you can sort of start to build your following if that's something you're trying to do. I also asked him advice about what to actually do with build in public, because I think a big fear for people that work for themselves is that by building in public or by sharing more vulnerable content, you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing. He had great advice, which is basically that we are dummies in most things. We have our area of expertise. For example, mine would be brand strategy, but with everything else, I'm a dummy. So with building a freelancing business, I am a dummy. Don't share build in public content around the area that you're an expertise in, because you don't want to look like you're a dummy around what you are supposedly skilled in, but share build in public content around the areas where you're a dummy, which is like most everything else. So for me, I'm a dummy with creating a YouTube channel, but when it comes to brand strategy or copywriting, I'm probably not going to be as vulnerable in those areas, even though there is always ways to improve and learn. Another thing I've learned as a freelancer, which is very timely, is working with AI. When all this stuff about ChatGPT and the rise of AI came out, I think like many people, I immediately was like, no, I want no part of it. I'm a bit of a Luddite. I am kind of scared of new technology. I immediately was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to use it. But then the more people started to talk about it, the more I thought, you know what, know thy enemy and get out there and use it and see if it can help. Or if it can't help, have a better understanding why it can't help so I can better defend myself against my clients if they do want to use that instead of hiring someone. The short answer is that ChatGPT are very helpful in some ways, but in terms of anything creative, I don't think we have anything to worry about at this specific moment in time. I'll use ChatGPT as sort of like an enhanced Google. Also, as a disclaimer, I'm only using ChatGPT, the free version. I'm not using the paid version, which I believe is GPT-4, which is the one people pay for, and it's supposed to be better quality because it's more based on the internet now versus ChatGPT, I think, pulls from maybe a year or year and a half ago. I don't remember exactly. I'll use it as sort of an enhanced Google in the way that I also use like a thesaurus, or I'll Google help articles. Where I found it most helpful is when I'm doing functions that I'm not skilled in and it's really hard to find help articles in. So if I have to do custom code on my website, like I use a custom font, and it was really helpful for providing the instructions with that just condenses things that you could find on Google. Or I had to put in custom code to a email newsletter for a client, and it was really, really helpful for helping me write that and figure out the right thing to put in. So that type of thing, I found it very, very helpful. Otherwise, with comms and messaging, it's good at giving you like templates to start with, but I would say if you want anything that is somewhat interesting and doesn't sound like a very generic ad or like generic copy, then you need to do a lot of editing from there. I still think a skilled copywriter or someone who is good at writing is far and away better than what these platforms are doing. I used Jasper for a while because I heard a lot of founders were using that for copywriting. In my opinion, you can tell that they're using that for copywriting. It's just like with anything where you go on a website and they have very generic copy. Sure, you can use AI, but if you want to have actual copy that's good and unique and helps express the brand better, you should still use a copywriter. I found those platforms not especially helpful for my own copywriting work. But it is helpful if you're trying to think about what associations are with certain words. So sometimes I would be like, what are the common associations with this word that I want to use? Or what are some other words for this? But I would use it in tandem with the thesaurus like I always did. I would say that I find these tools so far, if you work in copywriting or brand, to be most helpful for doing kind of like the BS work so that you can do your creative work. Think about it as where you would maybe use some admin tasks or things that taking up brain power or time that you don't really need to do, that doesn't require creativity. Is there a way that you can use these tools to free up that? I still think creative thought is much, much, much better by a human. All of this is evolving, so I'm sure that we'll keep learning, but I do recommend, if you've been a bit hesitant to use it, try to use it in ways that you feel comfortable to get more used to it, because it's definitely been more helpful than I thought it would be in some ways, but less helpful in others. And it kind of brings me a bit of comfort, because I feel like now I'm using it as a tool instead of like, oh, this threatening competition for me. Something else I learned this month, which is a constant lesson if you work for yourself, is how to take vacation. I've actually written about this before on Medium for some tips about how to take vacation when you work for yourself. I had another week off where I was really offline because I was in the middle of nowhere where we barely had any internet. So there was no question that I had to be offline. Honestly, the thing that I struggled with the most this time around was not setting boundaries and putting up an out of office and planning my work around it, because that stuff I've all done before. It was more so my mindset with coming back. I noticed like immediately my first day back, I was like, oh my God, I'm so behind. Oh my God, I need to get more clients. Oh my God, I need to make more money. And you're like, you took a week off. Of course, when you're coming back, you feel behind in these things because you just had a week off. So like, you don't come back and you're like immediately signing off on 5 projects. That's just not how it works. When you're off as a freelancer, things don't really keep moving, right? It's a pause. And so you need to build your business so that you can take those pauses. It was a very unhealthy mindset. The day I got back, I immediately felt behind. And I was like, okay, how do I deal with this in the future? Because this isn't really rational. Related to that, this summer has just been a bit slower. And I always forget that the summer in the US and Europe is always slow. And I think after a pandemic, travel patterns have changed. And so it used to be that mostly August was slow, and now it's a bit more unpredictable and hard to figure out. I also recommend as a freelancer, when you're in slower periods and you know that it's probably gonna pass because it's just the way the market is and that people are on vacation and things are slower, set a date for yourself in the future. For me, I'm setting September 30th, where you're like, that's where I can check in and see if things have like kind of picked up and gotten back to normal because everyone's back, or if I need to make some bigger adjustment based on some larger trend with the market that it's not just summer. Well, that's most of what I learned this month. I'm sure there were some other things, but those are the biggest lessons so far. I think one of the biggest ones has been around creating content, how I fit that into my schedule. I've definitely seen where I need to make some improvements, like maybe batching YouTube content and editing on one day. It's a bit harder to do on each day, and so that I'm making enough time for my client work, which is the most important thing, but that I can also make time for creating this content that I want. And if anyone has any thoughts on creating their own content, I would love to connect or to hear about it, because it's really interesting to talk to other people who are doing this, to see what their motivations are, what they've learned, how they've adjusted, what hasn't worked for them. I think you need to be like very, very clear on your own motivations. So by talking to other people, that's helped me in the process as well. I hope I learn more next month. Okay, bye.